Welcome to Italics, television for the Italian-American experience. I'm your host, Anthony Tamburri. In this episode of Italics, as we celebrate Women's History Month, we visit the Heckscher Museum in Huntington, New York, to speak with Karli Wurzelbacher, curator of the recent exhibition, Emma Stebbins, Carving Out History. This exhibition is the first to recognize Emma Stebbins as one of the most significant American sculptors of the 19th century. While her Bethesda Fountain in Central Park has been a global icon for over 150 years, the full scope of Stebbins' life and work has remained largely unknown. From 1857 to 1870, she created innovative and powerful sculptures while living in Rome with her wife, the renowned Shakespearean actress Charlotte Cushman, who strongly supported her career. In 1863, with the order for the Bethesda Fountain, she became the first woman to earn a commission for a public sculpture from the city of New York.
I'm excited to speak with you today about the exhibition Emma Stebbins, Carving Out History. From the time I came to the museum in 2019, I recognized that the museum had two very rare sculptures by Emma Stebbins, and they're included in this exhibition. And the Heckscher actually has the largest public collection of Emma Stebbins' work. What's interesting about Emma Stebbins is that many people have seen her artwork, but they don't realize it because she created the Bethesda Fountain, which is an icon of Central Park and of New York City, and it's been beloved by New Yorkers and by tourists since 1873 when it was first installed. So a lot of people have seen her artwork, but very few know her name, very few know her life story. So the Heckscher Museum is actually the first art museum in the United States to collect Emma Stebbins' work. Emma Stebbins was a New Yorker, but she really found personal and professional fulfillment in Rome, where she moved at age 41. And that's when she opened a professional sculpture studio, and then that's also when she met the love of her life, the American actress Charlotte Cushman. These two women were an artistic power couple of their day. They were very well known in their respective fields, and it's being in Rome that really allows Stebbins to be a professional artist. What's interesting is that she most often sells her work to other Americans who are tourists who are in Rome. And so middle and upper class Americans who are on the grand tour, so they're visiting Paris and Venice and Florence, and they're stopping in Rome, and they're going to the Vatican and the Capitoline Museum, but then they're also visiting the studios of these contemporary American artists. Rome at the time, this is in the 1850s when Emma Stebbins first arrives there, is really the center of the international art world. And so Americans are coming to Rome, but also the English and the Germans, everyone's coming to Rome because the style of the time is neoclassicism, the new classicism. And they're placing their own works in this long tradition. And so they need to be in Rome so that they can see these masterworks that are the models and the inspiration for their own work. So it was a very inspiring time for that reason. Also, because Emma Stebbins is working in the neoclassical style, she's using white marble, like the classical sculptors did. That marble comes largely from Carrara, And so being in Rome means that you're close to that raw material. And then you also have access to professional stone carvers and other artisans who you might call on to work in your studio to help you with certain commissions. So that tradition is alive in Rome, stone carving, in a way that it's not in other places. This exhibition includes 14 of Stebbins' rare marble sculptures. This work is called Commerce, and it depicts a sailor. And you can see that the sailor has a lot of attitude, with the hand on the hip. He's a pretty jaunty fellow. And what's remarkable is that Stebbins is depicting this big idea, commerce, in the form of a working class American laborer. So at the time, artists were using allegorical figures, and they were making art about literature or mythology. And here, Emma Stebbins is making art about regular life, working people. This work is called Industry. And the big idea of industry is being expressed in the form of a miner, a coal miner. While these works are very realistic and naturalistic, they're still idealized. This is a miner who is pristine. These are still heroicized versions of American laborers, but they're like nothing else any of her peers are doing. She is representing these big ideas, commerce, industry, in these novel forms, but at the same time, she is still working, she's pushing at the boundaries of neoclassicism. So she's still using idealized forms, she's still using marble, and she's actually referencing in the poses of the works some of those famous classical works that she would have seen, that her patrons would have seen in the Vatican. She's really marrying the ancient forms with the contemporary life of her time. This is the largest work in the show. It's 4 feet tall, and the title is Joseph the Dreamer. So this is Joseph from the Old Testament, the coat of many colors Joseph. And so we see him as a young man. He's dressed as a shepherd. Joseph had a lot of older brothers, and they were very jealous of him. And they actually sold him into slavery in Egypt. Joseph is sometimes called the father of agriculture because he says you've got to stockpile in those years when you have plenty so that during the famine years you still have food to eat. And so the fact that during the Civil War, Emma Stebbins would select this subject matter, I think is very telling. What I also love to say about this work is that it's never been on public view in the United States before. It has been cared for since 1888 by the Belfast Central Library in Northern Ireland. This is a portrait of Emma Stebbins as a young woman. It was actually painted by her teacher, her painting instructor, Henry Inman. She could not have gone to art school as a woman in New York City at this time, but in Rome, she had more professional opportunities to do the artistic training that she needed to do. For female American artists, particularly queer artists, being in Rome means you can live your life the way you'd like to. And so there's a degree of freedom. They find this liminal space where they can be themselves. This sculpture is incredibly important for so many reasons. Emma Stebbins rarely made portraits, but this is a portrait of Charlotte Cushman, her wife, her lifelong romantic partner, who she lived with in Rome. And it was actually one of her most successful works. So she created multiple versions of this portrait of Cushman. She was a famous Shakespearean actress. She was well known for playing both male and female roles. Their home was a center of expatriate life in Italy. The exhibition also includes many photographs of artworks that Stebbins fashioned in clay or in plaster that never got translated into marble or bronze. Stebbins and Cushman are in Rome together from 1856 until 1870. In 1869, Cushman was diagnosed with breast cancer. And so in 1870, they leave Rome, they come back to the US. Cushman will pass away in 1876, and so Stebbins lived longer. And she decided to write a biography of her wife, of her partner, Cushman. So in this exhibition, we actually have 2 first editions of the book. We opened this exhibition, Emma Stebbins Carving Out History, in September of 2025. And 2025 was the 10th anniversary of the Supreme Court decision giving same-sex couples the right to marry. So that is something that we wanted to amplify and celebrate with this exhibition. We also have a really important scrapbook. This scrapbook was created by the sister of Emma Stebbins. All of these 19th century photographs of Stebbins' work, some of those sculptures have been lost, and that scrapbook is in the exhibition. Something that was interesting when I was doing this project was seeing how women preserved one another's legacies. Of course, one of the most important parts of Emma Stebbins' body of work is the Bethesda Fountain. She first starts thinking about the fountain in 1861. It would not be installed until 1873. So years are going by where she's working on this. She's corresponding with the commissioners of Central Park. She's sending her cast to Munich to be cast in bronze. They're running the water through the fountain as a test so she can see that it works. Then they have to ship the bronze from Munich to the United States. This is all happening during the US Civil War and then the Franco-Prussian War. We partnered with the Central Park Conservancy. They had actually already created a 3D scan of the Bethesda Fountain for conservation purposes. We were able to use that 3D scan to make an app. Here we are outside the museum, where we actually have the Bethesda Fountain coming to Heckscher Park via augmented reality. So in order to do this, you have to be here at Heckscher. You can use the QR code here to download an app on your phone. The Bethesda Fountain will appear through the magic of augmented reality. And thanks to the help of the Central Park Conservancy, we are able to see the Bethesda Fountain in Heckscher Park outside the museum in augmented reality. The Bethesda Fountain, it's in Central Park near the reservoirs. Those reservoirs were created after a cholera epidemic. Cholera is caused by unclean water, lack of sewage system. And Stebbins' family members, her father and likely her brother, died of cholera. And so she had this immediate connection to these themes, and that's why the Angel of the Waters, it's about health and healing and bringing clean water to the city. And it commemorates this public infrastructure project that brought clean water and health to New York City so that the city could grow. And then we also have these 2 figures of Samuel. And these figures relate to the cherubs. There are 4 cherubs that are holding up the angel of the waters on the Bethesda Fountain. Those cherubs represent temperance, purity, health, and peace. And these are the benefits that would flow to New York City from clean water. So other artists have been inspired by the Bethesda Fountain. This image is taken by Ricky Flores. He took this photo on the day of the Puerto Rican Day Parade. And so what we're seeing is participants in the parade have gathered around the Bethesda Fountain in 1983, and they've placed the Puerto Rican flag into the hands of the Angel of the Waters. And you actually don't have to know who Emma Stebbins was, and you don't have to read a history book to connect with these themes of peace and healing. And I think this has to be one of the most successful public monuments from the 19th century that is still speaking to us today, all these decades and centuries later. So it was really important to us in the exhibition to show how the Bethesda Fountain has lived on, and it's accruing new meanings. It's only getting richer. This is a fantastic, very funky painting created by Martha Edelheit in the 1970s. And here, she is depicting the Bethesda Fountain almost nude, with multicolored wings, with cherubs with different skin colors, almost like a tattoo on the back of this nude figure who's lounging at the Bethesda Fountain. And up in the corner, you can see the Bethesda Fountain is very green, and that's because the bronze has oxidized. So in the 60s and 70s, Central Park and the Bethesda Fountain were in disrepair. And people from the counterculture flocked to the Bethesda Fountain. It was really a gathering place. And so I think it's fascinating to see Martha Edelheit's take, very contemporary take, on the fountain. In the exhibition, at the Heckscher Museum in general, we've really been thinking a lot about accessibility and how can people experience the art and learn about Emma Stebbins, not just through vision, but through our other senses like sound and touch. So we have an app on Bloomberg Connects that people can use on their telephone, and you can hear verbal descriptions of the artwork. You can also hear excerpts from the book Emma Stebbins wrote. So that's another way to experience the show. Here, you can actually get hands-on. So you can't touch any of the sculpture, of course, in the show, but to really feel, what does marble feel like? To feel the tools and how much force, but also how much skill and care would it take to shape something like this into the sculptures we're seeing in the exhibition. Emma Stebbins, of course, also worked in bronze, and so we have some metal bronze here. And the text here is in English and Spanish and also in Braille, and it talks about the whole story of the marble, how it starts in the mountains of Carrara and is extracted there and brought to Rome. So this is a chance where visitors can get hands-on and really appreciate what it was that Emma Stebbins did. In addition to organizing the exhibition, we also produced a wonderful publication, and it's also titled Emma Stebbins Carving Out History. The end papers are really nice because it shows the Bethesda Fountain then and the Bethesda Fountain now. The book includes original scholarly essays, full-color reproductions of all of the sculptures in the exhibition, many of which were photographed professionally for the first time for this book. After visitors see this show, I would love for them to really come away almost amazed by Emma Stebbins' life story and inspired. This is a woman who is born in New York City in 1815, who moves to Rome, changes her life at age 40, celebrates her 41st birthday in Rome, meets the love of her life, Charlotte Cushman, and really invents a whole new world for herself. At the center of American and Italian and international culture, and finds professional success and personal fulfillment and creates all these firsts. So she's the first American female sculptor to depict the male nude. She's the first American sculptor to depict working class American men. She is the first female artist in New York City to receive a commission for a public monument, and that's the Bethesda Fountain. This is a woman who had an incredible life, who created an incredible body of work, who was famous during her time, and it's only later in the writing of art history that she has fallen to the wayside. I think Emma Stebbins' work and life story had been eclipsed for a number of reasons. Certainly her gender and her sexuality likely had something to do with that. Also, Emma Stebbins was working at the kind of what we might call the tail end of the neoclassical style. So tastes were really shifting. She's working in marble. She's only in Rome for 14 years. It takes a really long time to create these works. And so her work is rare. She also created numerous public artworks that actually never got cast in bronze. So much is going on in world history, so much is going on in her life that she's not able to create just dozens and dozens and dozens of sculptures. So for all of these reasons, I think Stebbins fell out of the history books or was deliberately left out of the history books. And now we can recover, but those pieces are still there and we can put her story back together. This exhibition, Emma Stebbins Carving Out History, while it will close soon at the Heckscher Museum, I'm happy to share it is going on a national tour. It's going to Chicago, to Charlottesville, to Cincinnati, and to New Britain, Connecticut. So if you weren't able to see the show here at the Heckscher, I hope you can catch it elsewhere. It will be traveling the country, I think, through 2029. We're so pleased with the reception of the show so far. We've had a lot of visitors to Emma Stebbins Carving Out History. I especially love to see the school groups and to see young children learning about Stebbins and seeing this artwork. So again, if you can't see it at the Heckscher, do try to catch it on its tour, because then all of these objects will go back to the museums and the private collectors who lent them.
Bordighera Press is an imprint of the John D. Calander Italian American Institute. This spring, we've released a new set of books, including The Ambiguity of the Hypotheses by Adriano Bernardi, a study of Carlo Emilio Gadda's novel Quel pasticciaccio brutto di Via Merulana. Mitzvah by Alain Elkan, on the author's exploration of his relationship with Judaism. Recovering America by Maria Teresa Cometto and Glauco Maggi, about two Italians on one epic road trip from New York to the Pacific. Buona lettura. Thank you for watching this episode of Italics. I'm Anthony Tamburri. Arrivederci alla prossima puntata.